Hey, what up, y'all? How y'all doing? So I tried to make this video already once, but I kind of rethought it and kind of reviewed some of the stuff that I was saying, and I really went back and checked some stuff, to really, I think I might have jumped the gun on it a little bit. I'll admit that. But I think in this one, I'm going to have a much better and concise thought about what I'm going to talk about. And really, I'm going to be talking about two things. The first thing that I'm going to be talking about is the Nokia video by Drake. Not exactly that to a T, but something that has to do with it. And then I'm going to use that to segue into something else. So we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, I want to talk about the video. Look, there's a lot of criticism going around for this video, and a lot of it is warranted. Okay, the video is not that great. I don't like it that much. It's not terrible. Don't get me wrong, but it definitely doesn't fit the song. First off, I see people talking about the black and white a lot and saying like, well, that harkens back to old Nokias and being black and white and stuff like that. Nokia's had a green screen. Okay, like first off, let's not try to give him any outs for doing black and white on IMAX and stuff like that. The black and white and the IMAX especially are very kind of gimmicky. They don't really serve much of a purpose in the artistic expression in the video. The IMAX especially, when I saw that it was shot in IMAX when they opened it with that, I expected a lot more, or at least a better usage of it. There is no reason for this to be shot in IMAX. You're not going to see it on an IMAX screen. They don't make use of the IMAX very well at all. And I am a visual and audio junkie. Okay, I've said this before. I have a 7.1 surround sound with Dolby Atmos. Okay, I got a really nice 4K TV with Dolby Vision. I go to IMAX screens a lot when I can for movies that make good use of it. There was no reason for this to be shot in IMAX and for them to make it such a big deal if it was shot in IMAX. It just seems really gimmicky and more of a look how much money I can spend kind of thing, and not necessarily used again for artistic expression. But there's some other stuff. He uses some phones in the video that are not Nokias. I don't know why. They're older cell phones, but not any Nokias. I thought that was very weird. For a song called Nokia, it's just like I know they had the snake game and stuff in there. I don't know. Look, I think it could have been a lot better in that regard too. Let's see. And in general, the video is lacking a sense of vibrancy that the song itself has. I'm not a big fan at all. Actually, I don't like Some Sexy Songs for You at all. I think the majority of that album is garbage. Not in the sense of like I don't like R&B or whatever. R&B is not my favorite, but I don't think that's a good R&B album, and I don't think it does anything that we haven't really heard before better. You know what I mean? But I do like the song Nokia. I think that's a fun song. I think it's a really fun song. It's one of the best Drake songs I've heard in a minute. That's for sure. And I don't think he did a great job at showing off the vibrant, fun sound visually that the song has and that it should be shown with. The video being in black and white is actually like anti Nokia in a way. Like, you expect this song to have really poppy colors, maybe not neon to a degree, but just really poppy, vibrant colors and a setting that's very like alive feeling, kind of reminiscent of the old 2000s culture. I heard a lot of people saying that it should have taken place in something like a skating rink. I think I heard Castanat say that as well. I agree. Something like that would have been great. An old school style skating rink, filled to the brim with, a bunch of people who are, in their, early 20s and stuff like that. Like, just younger, more like filled with life. I think it was a major mistake to put this in black and white and use the settings that they had for the video. Another problem I have with it is it hopped around all over the place a fuck ton. Like there was no real time to get used to the settings and the set pieces that were in the video. It's just that kind of direction kind of baffles me a little bit. And I think that goes for both halves of the song. I don't think either half really expressed itself really well through the visual medium of a music video. And I don't know if that's a director's thing. I don't know if Drake wanted that specifically. It's just that, the video could have been so much more fun. It should have been so much more fun. And, at the very least, they could have had a more consistent setting, a more consistent feel, rather than, giving this kind of drab, back and forth kind of set piece where and setting that, that just doesn't really fit the song. The song is very fun and stuff like that, but the music video is just like, it's not that it's not fun, but I don't know. If you listen to that song, the video is not what you imagine in your head. And sometimes that's a good thing when people create music videos that are a little bit different than what maybe you envision for it in your head. But in this case, not so much. Now, the other thing I want to talk about with the video is I've heard, and this is why I actually redid this video. I've heard a lot of people say that there are a ton of Kendrick rebuttals and shots in this video. And at first, having only watched the video a couple times and having only really seen some of the criticisms that people had about the possible Kendrick disses in the video, I wasn't too convinced when I first shot this. I was really doing the video as a commentary on kind of hip hop YouTube and the hip hop media landscape as a whole right now. And I still have a point to that, but I actually take back what I was originally going to say in the sense that I didn't see what people were seeing. After giving it another couple watches and looking at it a little bit closer and really kind of dissecting it, seeing what some other people had to say, I don't agree with everybody's. A lot of people seem to think that the whole fucking video is one big thing. I think some of the instances that people have of possible Kendrick disses in the video are kind of flimsy, but I will say I noticed a lot more on the second time around, and there was a lot more coincidences that I thought at first were coincidences that now I'm not so sure about. We can go over a couple of them. So in the beginning, the whole black and white thing and some of these shots in black and white and some of what Drake was wearing seems to evoke similar feeling and imagery to the beginning of the Not Like Us music video when Kendrick first previewed Squabble Up. Now, actually, I have to agree at this point. At first, I wasn't too sold, but when you compare them side by side, it is a little uncanny, just a little bit. And when you take it in the totality of the video, it seems a lot more in your face. When you take some of the other instances of weird possible Kendrick rebuttals, the beginning with the snake in the background and Drake dancing in front of that, it just has a similar feeling of Kendrick in the hallway, previewing Squabble Up. Now, the other one is, and this one is possible. This is one of the ones that I'm not too sure about, and I'm not going to go over every instance. I really don't want to do that. This is not a total Nokia breakdown video. Not really what I want to do. But the handshake shot where Drake and I'm sure someone else, I don't know who, are doing a sort of handshake. A lot of people are saying that is a response to Meet the Grams, no secret handshakes with your friends, that line. And, I could see that to a degree, but it seems a little odd to me to focus on that single line and be like, that's the one I want to call out. Like that's the one I want to rebuttal, is that line. I get why people think that. I'm just not entirely sold on it. I do agree that there's a weird sort of emphasis shown on the handshake in the video that doesn't really seem to fit with the rest of it. I'll agree with that. But as a whole, I'm not too sure. There's also the dancing sequence with the dancers in the crop top hoodies and the leather crop top hoodies. And a lot of people are saying that is kind of a take or like a play on Kendrick's dancers in the Super Bowl performance. that's another one I'm like, I'm not too sure about. You know, I can see why people say that, but there's enough of a difference to me that, and it just seems like it would be a weird response, you know, a weird way to be like, you know, I don't even know what he would really be trying to say or what he's trying to rebuttal or go against there, you know, and and it here and here's well, before I say this, I guess I'll go through one other one. The end of the video uh, ends with three owls on top of, I think, what is a electric pole, a light pole, something like that. And a lot of people are saying that that is kind of a rebuttal to the owl in a cage at the end of the Not Like Us video. That one I could see to a degree. You know, kind of showing that, you know, oh no, OVO's still out here. You know, you don't got us caged in. You know, we're still out here. We're kind of still at the top, you know, of the totem pole kind of thing. You know, I think I could see that one a little bit more than say the dancers or whatever. But here's kind of what my problem is and why I hope that the video is not just one big Kendrick reply, you know, and it's that like, dude, let it go. Like, if it is one big Kendrick reply, Drake is officially so upset and obsessed that it has taken over his whole life and taken over his own artistry to the point where like it's bleeding through too much. And even if say that's not the issue, he's done enough stuff. He's done so much like stuff and replies and kind of like sneak disses and shit like that ever since the beef towards Kendrick that these things, these possible coincidences, are enough for people to be like, dog, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you still on this? Why are you still talking about this? Why are you still responding? Why are you making your whole thing about rebuttaling Kendrick? You know? And that's why I think that maybe some people are reading into it a little bit too much, but he's done stuff like at his concerts in Australia and New Zealand. And just some of this, you know, his tirades in public and some of his social media posts and the plot twist shit and all of that. He made his whole thing for a long time there up until the album came out, a sort of like, it just seemed like he was just so obsessed and thinking about losing to Kendrick so much that he was spiraling, you know? I think that gives people enough reason to read into some stuff that may not actually be there. And it does give me some plausible deniability where I'm like, you know, is he really doing this? You know, I would like to think that, you know, he's not going to start making every fucking video and every fucking song and every fucking album about the Kendrick beef. I would like to think that. But at this point, it's very hard to see. It's very hard to not put some of that stuff to being a Kendrick rebuttal. And I just, you know, I know a lot of people say, and maybe not a lot of people, but I hear people say quite a bit like the Super Bowl performance was all about Drake. No, it wasn't. Okay. There was a good reason to put Not Like Us in there. There was a good reason to say some of the stuff he said, you know, they love to sue and stuff like that. I think that we can see that quite a few of the pieces of the Super Bowl performance were not about Drake at all, you know, but Not Like Us, ending on Not Like Us and kind of building it up throughout the performance made sense. It didn't strike me as someone who's still obsessed, you know, or whatever, or making the performance all about somebody else. You know, we had quite a few songs, most of the songs in that performance that had nothing to do with Drake at all. You know, and it really felt more like a cap on the whole battle and, you know, a final victory lap for Kendrick. And I think, look, maybe you could say Kendrick's victory lap went too long in general. I don't think so. He took down and unanimously, I might add, I know that a lot of Drake fans are saying, you know, Drake didn't lose. He lost. Okay. You gotta let it go. But in the eyes of the world, in the eyes of hip hop, Kendrick pretty much unanimously won a huge beef, one of the biggest beefs, if not the biggest beef ever, with the biggest artist in hip hop and one of the biggest artists in the world, who we all thought, quite frankly, was too big to fail, you know? And he did it in such a fashion that it has kind of wrecked Drake's career since then. I'm not saying Drake is over. I don't think Drake will ever be over. But we can't deny that this has had a profound effect on his fucking psyche, okay? Like, he has taken this hard. And so with that victory happening the way that it did, I don't really blame Kendrick for going that hard and going that far. you know? And I think that the Super Bowl performance as a cap on that and the way he ended it, I think was very good. I think, honestly, I think that's one of the best ways to do it. He didn't release another diss track. He added some subliminal messaging in there that wasn't too dense or too hard to find, but wasn't too shallow, you know? Uh, I don't know. I don't see that at all. Now, the second thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but I think that YouTube, hip hop YouTube right now, and hip hop media as a whole kind of has a Drake and Kendrick problem. Okay. And what I mean by that is I follow a lot of hip hop YouTubers. I follow a lot of hip hop media, tons of hip hop YouTubers, like people like Professor Sky, the Company Man, Screwface Jean, Read My Soul. All those people are people that made me want to pick this up and do this in the first place. They're inspiration to me, not because they were Kendrick fans, even though they are all Kendrick fans. And I do see, I find myself agreeing with a lot of their takes most of the time. But that they were actually just hip hop fans, and they covered a lot of different stuff relating to hip hop in general, not just Kendrick. And I want to say the Company Man doesn't have this problem, honestly, because he does a great job at focusing on all of hip hop. I think he's fantastic in that regard. But a lot of hip hop YouTube has become Kendrick YouTube, okay, or anti-Drake YouTube. And I get it. I get people having a good reason for that. Drake suing UMG, because of the beef, and that's what it is for. It's not to save other artists, because why the fuck did he wait until now in order to do that? If you think that's what it's for, you're not paying attention. I'm just gonna put it out there. So as a hip hop fan, I don't like that. I think it's so anti hip hop. I think it does kind of remove Drake from the cultural zeitgeist and frame him as anti hip hop himself. Yeah, he can still make hip hop and stuff like that, but we're not going to look at Drake as hip hop now. Not like that. He can do hip hop, but we're not looking at him as hip hop from now on, just because this is so beyond the pale in terms of what is accepted and what is, what makes the culture the culture. But I think that a lot of people are focusing on both of these two artists way too much. I'm seeing too much Kendrick and Drake content now. And there are some people that I do like, not really those four, even though a few of them do kind of have this issue as well, but there's quite a few people that I see that have kind of blown up since the beef and gotten pretty popular that are, I don't know how to say it. They just focus on these guys. They just focus on these guys, and it's like, it's a little like, I don't know. It seems a little clickbaity. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say, is that, they're using the Kendrick and Drake beef and, the things that are happening surrounding it and just Kendrick and Drake news in order to, gain clicks. And they're not really talking about anything else, even though there's so much other stuff to talk about, and I'm not seeing many people cover other people's music as much anymore. It's solely just news about Kendrick and Drake. And, it's a little frustrating to see that that's kind of where the hip hop space on YouTube especially has kind of gone. And not just on YouTube, even in general discussions about hip hop nowadays, Kendrick and Drake are inserted into certain discussions where they have no reason to be inserted into. I had a specific example earlier. Maybe I'll put it below in the comment section. But, if you go on Reddit and you go on the Hip Hop Head subreddit, you can see this happening quite a bit, where it'll be about a certain artist, it'll be a thread for a certain fresh thread for an album, or it'll be some other artist related to either of them to a degree. And the whole thread, not the whole thread, but a lot of the thread will somehow be turned into something about Drake or Kendrick, and it's like, you see this a lot on Instagram as well. It just in general, it feels very like, dude, I love the beef. I love watching reactions about the beef. I love, reliving that time. It was one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting time in hip hop for me that I've experienced. But we got to let it go, dude. We got to let it go, man. It's getting a little ridiculous how many people are shoving this topic into discussions where it doesn't need to be shoved. you know? And I wish some people would start focusing more on some of the other music again, some of the other things that are dropping, start reacting to certain things again or talking about certain things again. Like today, Boldy James just dropped an album with Don V. I know nobody is going to listen to that, even though Boldy is a great artist. Like, I didn't, I don't hear people talking about, any really underground artists to a degree, like Kenny Mason. I don't see any videos breaking down other artists or like re-listening to some albums like Jid. I don't see much like discussion having to do with non-Kendrick or related or Drake related things right now. And I think that's kind of a problem because it's like, who are you going to go to for that now? If you want something kind of more outside of that topic, which you should, hip hop's not all about these two. I think Kendrick is the greatest of all time, but hip hop's not all about Kendrick. And he doesn't have to be shoved into every conversation related to hip hop, like, I don't know. I see it happening a lot. It's something that's kind of been bothering me. And I really don't want my channel to become that. That's why I wanted to kind of focus on both the Drake video and this topic in one video, kind of use one to segue into the other, because I don't want my channel to be all just Kendrick or all just anti-Drake shit or whatever. My channel is just starting out. I don't want to put myself in a box to that regard. And I think some people have. So yeah, that's the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did like it, you like discussing stuff like this, please leave a comment, like the video, subscribe if you want more. And let me know what you think about the Drake and Nokia video in the comments. Let me know what you think about hip hop YouTube. Is it going too far with the Kendrick and Drake thing? Is hip hop media in general, hip hop discussions, are they going too far in that regard? Yeah, just let me know in the comments below. And if y'all want me to watch anything, listen to anything, talk about anything, leave a suggestion in the comments. I'll be reading all of them. Thanks, guys. Peace.